vegetable oil, cheese seasoning, canola oil, maltodextrin, salt, whey protein concentrate, monosodium glutamate, natural and artificial flavors, lactic acid, citric acid, artificial color, and salt.
Sugar, enriched flour, vegetable oil, coconut, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, sweetened concentrated milk, sorbitol, cocoa, corn sugar, whey, glycerin, salt, soy, baking soda, natural and artificial flavors, monochilium frost.
At HTMNC, we wanted to learn about the food that we're eating and everything that goes into making it, from start to finish. Where does it come from? What is it made of? We are here to answer these questions and get down to the source of our eating habits and the effects it has on our planet. We wanted to learn the source of the food that many students buy at HTMNC, so we visited our school kitchen responsible for ordering, cooking, and delivering all of our school lunch program.
I buy lunch every day because sometimes when I get up in the morning, I wake up pretty late, or sometimes I just completely forget to do my to pack my lunch. It's either skip breakfast and have a lunch, or have no lunch, get one here and have breakfast. So that's kind of been like my backup anytime I'm kind of like too tired to wake up, which is like every day, seeing as how I eat lunch here every day.
I wanted to learn more about how the school lunches were made and where they came from, and how the schools can be more healthy with their food choices and what I can pick, so then I have a more healthy lifestyle.
The federal government requires us to have certain nutritional values for each one of our foods. So first off, we have to start there. And such as like sodium and calories and the nutrition and that type of piece. So if the products don't meet those qualities, they can't be purchased to begin with at all. And then of course you want to supersede those if you can. If you can move it up for higher, like if you wanted a lower sodium product, then you try to purchase those type of things if you can. So when you are trying to purchase a product, there's different prices for each product. So let's take produce, for example. There's different qualities and different grades of produce. And for me to purchase the products, I have to purchase 5 items for each meal. So I have to keep it within the 40%. So yes, I have to figure out where I can buy the best quality on each one of those levels.
It's hard for kids to find out what they want to eat because there are so many different sugars hiding in the food, and it's harder for them to learn about the healthy choices when they're hidden within all these unhealthy junk foods that can be tempting to the kids.
This is actually a production kitchen for our elementary sites too. So we make all of our spaghetti sauces from scratch. All of our taco meat from scratch here, and then we ship it out to other schools. Just like any other business, that your budget needs to be able to be balanced. So you have to balance it not only with purchases of food, you also have to balance it with your labor and then any overhead costs that you have. I have to figure out where I can buy the best quality on each one of those levels, and such as like sodium and calories and the nutrition and that type of piece. So if the products don't meet those qualities, they can't be purchased to begin with at all. There's a possibility that you can buy different options, because if your parents at a high-paying student district are willing to pay $4.50 or $5 for their lunches, then you have more money to purchase the product. I bet you all have heard, maybe or you have not, there's been in the newspaper and on the TV about some school districts purchasing products outside of the United States. Okay, well, one of the things is we always want to purchase things in the United States, of course, for our own economic purpose. And also it's the growing season. We're lucky here in California that we're able to get our hands on a lot of local produce and things like this. But think of the middle of the country and far east during the winter time. We try not to, but if for any reason there's a depletion in the United States, we don't want to deprive you of that, but usually we do not. We try to find products here.
Food grown in the U.S. travels an average of 1,500 miles to get to your plate. This statistic does not account for food grown internationally, which includes transportation and environmental costs of shipping food. By buying within the U.S., not only are you supporting the U.S. economy, but you're cutting back on agricultural and transportation practices that are destroying and polluting our environment.
When this project started, I was like, all right, strap in, like, get ready. You're gonna learn some stuff that you might not really be comfortable with, or it might change the way you look at what you're eating. So it's not like there was like, oh, I really want to learn how a burger works, or it's like, okay, I get to learn about this, and next time I know that there are better choices that I can make.
So when I need to make breakfast, lunch, and or dinner for my 4 kids, raised them together and they all like the same type of foods. So up to recently, they've all eaten everything the same. 2 of my children have decided not to eat pork products. So now if I was to make an egg burrito, cook with turkey sausage or turkey bacon. Most of my food choices are based on cost. I usually sell items. So I look through the advertisements and get things on sale, whether it's the meat, or if I'm gonna go to the store and get a vegetable, whatever's on sale is what I get.
Research has shown that cheap food beats out fresh food when cost-conscious customers are forced to make a choice. The processed food industry is incredibly efficient and has found a way to take cheap crops like corn and soy and add artificial ingredients and chemical flavors to create tasty foods that are inexpensive for consumers. Over the past 20 years, the costs of fruits and vegetables have risen over 40%, while the costs of sodas and certain snacks have actually declined.
Tara McHugh, and I'm a research leader, a food scientist. Any food that goes through any sort of treatment after it's picked is considered processed.
Processed foods are more of an illusion than an actual real food. They trick you into thinking they're healthier by saying low fat, low sodium, no trans fat, or anything like that to hook you in. When shopping, it is smarter to stick on the outer aisles of the grocery store if you want to avoid all temptation of processed food. Processed foods can keep you coming back because it is extremely addictive. Processed foods can stimulate dopamine. Dopamine is a compound in the body that can cause you to experience adrenaline. Processed foods tend to rely on food dyes, which make the food appear fresher, but can actually cause ADHD, asthma, allergies, and cancer.
My name is Jeanette Candelaria, and my background is as a public health researcher.
How often do you work with people that their diet consists of processed food?
I would say it comes up every day. If you eat only processed food, well, you probably could get, I think one of the biggest things that you'd see is obesity.
Your heart and brain suffer when you choose to eat processed food, which uses refined fats and oils that are actually good for you, but now can lead to depression, memory issues, and mood swings. Processed foods encourage you to eat on the run. Eating on the run or while multitasking can cause you to not receive signals from your body to tell you you're full. It is also harder for you to digest properly.
Corn syrup is a sticky substance that is a common sweetener used in candy, sodas, cookies, etc.
30% of kids eat at least one fast food meal a day.
The worst problem right now, as I mentioned in class today in my lecture, is about eating trans fat, eating a lot of processed foods, okay? And your intake of that, and also eating too much of it.
In The Omnivore's Dilemma, author Michael Pollan states that we have to eat food, mostly plants, and not too much. But we began to realize that we're eating a lot of processed food, too much, to the point where we can't even recognize it as a plant. But is this something uniquely American, or is it a worldwide problem?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I go to High Tech Middle North County, and my mom is from Denmark, so I have different food culture, so my eating habits are different, so I'm here to show you.
One thing I do in the morning is sit together with my family in front of the fireplace with a homemade fire and prepare for the day ahead.
Okay, so this is all the things that we put in our green goo drink. There's carrots, celery, some kale, apples, ginger, oats, I think there's lictine, some energy powders, sort of green, and then there's CoQ10, penicillin, and yeah, that's what's in our green goo drink.
Making the chicken in the oven with not adding any fats, only adding spices, and cooking it at a high temperature that does sort of melt some of the fat off that is there, instead of putting it in, like frying it in oil. And it still gets crispy. You still get a crispy skin. So it's just a way of choosing to cook, I think, is I had to be very conscientious as an adult thinking about what's good for us. So it's about also making my children conscientious of what are we cooking? Where did it come from? We're only drinking organic milk, using organic eggs. I don't remember the last time I ever bought ground beef. I don't think I can even remember when I did it last time.
I'm Elizabeth Dukes, and my family traditions and my Danish culture affect my food choices and are a part of who I am.
Studies have shown that processed foods make up almost 70% of the U.S. diet. So why is it that Americans quickly resort to processed foods?
Pros and cons of processed food and the American industrial food system. On the one hand, it has made food cheaper in America than anywhere else in the world. We spend less per capita in America on food than any other country in the world. One of the unintended results of that is that we have driven food to that cheapness with a profit motive. And so we haven't always focused on whether or not that food that we're making cheap and abundant is good for us. And so those unintended consequences are health problems, environmental degradation. I don't know if you've heard of factory farms where they grow thousands and thousands of pigs and hogs for slaughter, and the waste from those animals gets into the water systems in communities. The stench for miles around can be horrible. And so those are the kind of unintended consequences of this industrialization of our food system. The hidden costs to me are mostly have to do with the bad health effects that kind of inexpensive food can have. Because we focus on the profit and the abundance of food, some of the things that have been taken out of that are nutrition. That kind of fast, abundant, cheap food is rarely nutritious, rarely healthy for anybody. And so that's a horrible consequence. And that's why people at the lower end of the economic scale have health problems related to food. If you could simply give them better, fresher food, their health and their lives would improve.
Some of the cons are it's very resource intensive. You have to use a lot of fertilizer, you have to use a lot of fossil fuels, you have to use a lot of water, and you don't usually create too many jobs. So usually 1 or 2 or 3 people can take care of hundreds and hundreds of acres of farmland because they're just growing one type of crop or maybe 2 types of crops. And it also contributes to environmental degradation. So we lose our soil. The soil erodes and it enters the waterways and it ends up in the ocean where it causes problems for marine life. Industrialized farming has kind of impacted smaller organic farms by outcompeting price-wise on producing produce. But the nice thing that's happened in the last 5, 10, 15 years is people have gotten really interested in knowing what's on their food, knowing what goes into their food, knowing how their food was produced. So there's a section of the population that's just, they really want to know where their food came from, and they really want to make sure it comes from a good place.
Hi, my name is Nadine Fletcher. I'm an 8th grade at High Tech Middle North County, and I eat a plant-based diet.
Before I was vegetarian, and while I was vegetarian I kind of knew a bit about what went on in the factories, but it was always, veganism was always kind of something I thought about. And I was kind of searching through YouTube one day, and I saw this girl who was describing veganism, and so I thought I should, you know, check out or do some more research about it.
Here, just, what is it? The crust is actually really good. What did you put in it? The shortened stuff? They we talked about why you decided to be a vegan, but I want to go over it in light of in light of the fact that we've done this for like 6 months now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about your decision?
I like it. I'm happy with it.
How about how mom and dad are dealing with it?
I don't really care. Not like that, like, I don't really care. It's like,
you do it anyway?
yeah.
But do you see that we
Yeah,
really try?
Let you try.
I mean, I bought a Vitamix maybe.
Yeah. Oh,
See?
great.
When I learned the reality of what goes on in factory farms and organic farms, I decided this would be the best decision for me to make.
We don't have a vegan lifestyle, but if that's what she chooses, as long as she doesn't berate or punish or disrespect our choices, we don't do that to her.
I have a lot of respect for her decisions. As a father, I want you to research things. I want you to understand what you're doing and make decisions. And the biggest thing for me is I want you to learn how to commit to your decisions.
People, I guess I appreciate, and Dad and I were talking about this, that you don't push your veganism on people.
Yeah.
But you are more criticized for being vegan than you are anything else. Yeah. Yeah, so you get criticized for being vegan, but you don't try and push it on other people. Which is funny because like their jokes, remember the jokes I told you? The guy says, "Hi, I'm Richard, I'm 35 and I'm a vegan."
Yeah.
Like that's like your big top 3 personality traits.
Whenever I make like desserts or anything, my brother will say like, "Oh, I hate vegans. Vegans are a disgrace to the world." So a lot of people are kind of against that. So it's one of the hardest parts about choosing this lifestyle. When I chose to become vegan, I thought that I'd feel less guilty, I'd feel better about myself, and that I know I'd be doing something good for animals, people, and the planet. I'm very happy with my choice because I feel like I'm really making an impact on the planet.
In the past 50 years, the majority of agriculture practiced in the United States has become industrialized. This means that farms are now running like factories and are often very large and specialized. In 2011, U.S. agriculture produced a gross output production of $374 billion. Although this has enabled the United States to produce large amounts of food quickly, what are the costs that we have incurred? There are thousands of brands of foods and drinks. They all have to try their best to sell their item and show the consumer that their item is a better choice. They will do whatever they can do to make it seem better, even messing with labels, telling you that it has 0 grams of fat when there are really just under 0 grams of fat. So don't fool yourself with advertising, and don't fall for the labels.
So there's lots of different styles of shopper. There's a value shopper, and then there's a name brand shopper. So traditionally, One will lean towards one and one will lean towards the other. Winco's a little bit more unique in that we can offer our national brands at a lower price.
During our project, we visited Winco, a grocery store chain located in San Diego County. We found that unlike most grocery stores, Winco finds ways to reduce prices of foods, which makes it more affordable and easier to buy healthy foods.
We do certain things to make sure that we focus on our pricing at all times, including saving expenses and transportation. Another thing that we do is we don't offer a weekly ad. We will on occasion send out an ad during a grand opening or a special event. However, we take the expense that we would have for that advertising and for marketing, and we put that right back into our pricing at store level and offer that savings to the consumer. For our fresh departments, and Winco has a big focus on our produce. As you guys noticed, that whole side of the store is our fresh food, and so we have a much larger percentage of fresh sales than a traditional grocery retailer does.
So the things that affect your food choices are convenience, what you know how to do, and the money you have available to it. And all of those choices tend to push you towards more fast, more convenient, less healthy foods. And when you're working 60 plus hours a week at a minimum wage job, you're not at home cooking healthy meals. You're just trying to survive. When they have a limited budget, okay, they're going to buy as many calories as they can. So instead of buying this many fresh organic vegetables, they're going to buy this many cheap, fast, easy to produce calories. And so, but these cheap, easy, fast food calories have a cost to them. Cost is in poor health, obesity, diabetes, all these bad outcomes for having to make choices that are simply dependent on how much money you have. If you're a few blocks away from a Whole Foods market, you can go in there and it may be expensive, but you have access to all this prepared food that's healthy and fresh. If you're living in Southeast San Diego, for example, and the only market within miles of you is a Food for Less, you don't have the same access to easily prepared, fresh, healthy food.
As humans, we obviously shop, but we only read one label, one company. We don't see the bigger picture, and when we do see it, we only glance at it, then go back to our everyday lives. But when you think about the big picture, things pop up. In America, only a small number of corporations own most of the foods consumers seen in grocery stores. Companies like PepsiCo, General Mills, and Coca-Cola own many smaller companies like Ocean Spray, Vitamin Water, and Yoplait. Looks can be very deceiving. Big name brands and fancy labels create obstacles for making healthy food choices.
The government influences all of our food choices and creates labels that we look at every day. Whether you purchase food from a grocery store or a farmer's market, every choice that you make have passed through many regulations to be sold to the public. We interviewed people at our local grocery store, ranging from public officials to stay-at-home moms, on their food choices, if they look at labels and how they're influenced by them.
I do not look at food labels when I'm shopping. I look more at pictures, which is cool. They don't really mess up my food choices.
Yes, I think nutrition, how much protein, sugars, calories.
Mostly ingredient based. Yes, I look at ingredients, although honestly I don't understand all of the contents all of the time.
I tend to go to the calories first, I guess, but that's the first thing that that you see on the labels. And then I also go to kind of the ingredients list and see some of the first few things that are labeled in there to see if they're natural or stuff that's maybe a little bit more processed, easier processed by your body.
So in terms of labeling and food that we have in the store for sale, there's lots of different things that we have for sale that are either labeled outside of our facility and are shipped into our facility, or we have our fresh produce and we have our seafood and we have our meat items that are in our store too. So the items that we handle and the items that we produce here, we are obligated under law to label those items and make certain that whatever is contained, including the ounces of each item, say in a deli salad or in something like that,
what the consumer can expect to bring home.
We spoke with an FDA public affairs official, Rosario Quantilla, about the FDA and their influences on your food purchases in the process of food labeling.
Our mission is to protect public health. And so one of the areas of large responsibility for the Food and Drug Administration is to make sure that all the food products that you eat are safe and wholesome and that they're properly labeled. All those companies who are doing business producing a food product have to know what the FDA rules are, what are the guidelines for producing a product that is going to be canned or packaged or however served. And it also has the rules regarding all of the labeling requirements. And so it's the company's responsibility to make sure that they meet those laws. FDA does not pre-approve food. So it doesn't go through a process where it comes to FDA for approval and then it's sold. The companies are responsible to make sure that they follow the law.
The FDA does not have to pre-approve processed foods, but organic farms do have to meet requirements created by the California USDA.
We do have certain labeling requirements. One of those is our certifying agency, which is it's a very complicated name. It's called Certified Organic by Organic Certifiers. California in general, we don't grow a lot of crops that get subsidized. We're a specialty crop state. A specialty crop is anything that's not corn, wheat, soybean, sugar, and cotton, I think, are the top 5. We do grow cotton in this state, but it's on a scale that's a lot smaller than other states that get the subsidies. The commodity crops get the subsidies. We get grants. We can apply for grants through the Farm Bill. That, I guess, in a sense, is a subsidy, but we're in the same pool for a lot smaller amount of money. All farmers are applying for the same grant, whereas the commodity crops, there's only a certain amount of those guys that do that. Maybe hundreds of thousands of acres, but each of those growers is probably 4,000 of those acres. So there's a lot fewer of them than there are of us. Organic food is a healthier option because you can be certain that you're not filling your body with needless chemicals. As an organic farm, you're not allowed to use genetically modified products. So if the word organic is on the label, it's already non-GMO. So we don't have any GMOs in organic products. No, I don't think there's a difference in taste if the farmer does a quality job no matter what, but it's healthier. In organic farming, you have to prove that you have at least 3 years of non-chemical pesticide, fertilizer, or any man-made items added to your soil, farm, or crops. So you have 3 years of that. After 3 years of maintaining that, you can apply to be organic. Then you have a third-party agency, so a private agency that you pay to come in and certify your records and do some sampling of your farm to make sure you're organic. After that, you have the state regulations, and the state is running off of the USDA, which is our national regulation, but the state is the regulator for the USDA. And the state will come in and do their audit of your same books and maybe do some sampling. And now in the last 3 years, they've started actually doing surprise inspections. So they'll come onto farms and do inspections without you knowing they're coming. Number one challenge right now is water in Southern California, or in all of California. Water is a precious commodity, and when you guys are my age, there will be wars fought over water. And that's a sad thing. Drinkable, potable, usable water for crops and for humans and for animals. We don't have, it never changes on the earth. There's always the same amount of water. It depends on where it's at.
My name is Mariana. I'm 14 years old and I have lupus. Lupus is a disease in the blood. It can affect your kidneys, it can affect your lungs, and it can also affect your heart. I was diagnosed in the 5th grade. I think I was 12. I started getting the butterfly rash. It started off with my nose peeling. And then a few days later, it started going like above my nose and then on my cheeks, and they call it as the butterfly rash. After that, my whole world changed with a second. And prednisone, I used to take it. They took me off of it, and it was a steroid that helped me
helped the lupus level go down. Prednisone made me gain a lot of weight. It made me increase my appetite, and I got bullied because of it, and it was terrible. I just wanted to, not take it, but I have to. After I got diagnosed, I started eating more vegetables, fruits, and I quit the soda. I've been 2 years, almost 3 years without drinking soda, and I've almost got 4 months without drinking any juice. My parents eating at home and my siblings eating at home, they eat cookies in front of me. They eat stuff that I can't eat, and it's really hard to control myself. It's really hard to control what I crave. If I want something, I have to eat vegetables. I have to eat fruits. I can't eat a lot of sweets, and that's my weakness.
But sometimes I make easy dinners. I make albondigas or chicken with vegetables. The doctor said, red meat should be only like once a week or once every 2 weeks, something like that. So that's why we try to eat more chicken and turkey, ground beef.
At the store, me and Madela tried to sneak Captain Crunch into the cart, and my mom didn't let us get it.
Usually for cereals, I like to shop at Sam's Club because I get, bigger box for less money. I mean, every once in a while, I do buy like Fruity Pebbles and Lucky Charms.
What I want people to take out of this, out of my story, is to be determined to change their eating habits, regardless if you have a disease or not. I want them to put hope into their lives that they can change. I want you guys to look at my story and say anyone can do it. And I just want people to live a happy life. I want people to be determined whatever they want to do.
One of the most significant consequences of the increase of processed foods consumption in America is the impact it's had on our health. America is facing an epidemic of health problems directly related to diet and food choices.
Diabetes is very preventable. Again, it's about how much stress our bodies are undergoing with the types of foods that we're eating. So there are certain things that we can do to help decrease type 2 diabetes in our population, not just for young children, but also for adults. So the one thing we can do is start eating more fruits and vegetables. So the recommendation in pediatrics is to eat at least 5 fruits and vegetables every day.
We can avoid from processed sugar like, sugar cane, avoid those. Avoid the processed sugar if possible. Take it from natural sources. Honey, things like that. Sugar from fruits. Natural sugar from even milk sugar. There's sugar in milk too. Because in order to exercise, you need to eat. Otherwise, you bonk, right? If I was in the middle of a 5-mile ride and I don't get enough food in me, and there's not enough sugar, because what happens is that when we eat protein and carbs, they break down into monosaccharides or amino acids. You need that food source. So in order to do both, you need to eat.
Just eat sugar. It gives you nothing but sugar, and that taxes your body's system. It taxes it provides calories that can make you fatter. It makes may make your insulin pump work harder, and it can cause damage, not provide nutrients that your body needs.
So if you don't get enough food in you, you're gonna bonk. And that's the worst feeling anybody can go through.
Around 30 grams, or like in one serving, maybe like 15.
Like 20? I have no idea.
100.
32.
According to the American Heart Association, children should only consume between 3 and 4 teaspoons of added sugar each day. This is often exceeded in breakfast alone for many children in the United States. If we know that many processed foods have added chemicals, artificial ingredients, and sugars and are ultimately unhealthy choices, then why do Americans consume so many of these types of products? We found that one reason is because of the limited access that many people have to better alternatives. Studies have found that 23 million people, including 6.5 million children, live in areas where better alternatives are not an option.
Everybody was poor, but none of us knew we were poor, because everybody had a garden. My father was a janitor. We had a garden every year, so every summer my brothers and sisters and I had to pick all the food from the garden, and we would freeze it so that we would have vegetables over the winter. In the summer we had fresh vegetables. In the winter we had frozen. We also had a garden, an orchard, and we had our own cattle, our own sheep, our own chickens. My understanding of food deserts is that they are places where people don't have access to healthy foods within a certain range of distance from their house. And as people moved in into those neighborhoods, and they thought they were not, the people who lived there did not think they were desirable, they moved out, okay? And those areas some of them became burdened with high levels of crime and a lot of poverty, and then no one wanted to put stores there. Because in a food desert, you're not getting the nutrients, you're filling up on empty calories. If you shop at Circle K, do you think you're going to have a wide range of fresh foods and vegetables? Probably not, right? And those are the things that have a lot of the micronutrients that your body needs. Do you think the little crackers and the sodas and the candies and the nuts, some of the nuts may have some nutrients you need, but they don't have like some of the micronutrients that you get from vegetables and fruits?
You've been to food deserts because we drive through them all the time. And so often there are areas where there's food, but there's not the kind of food that is defined according to the USDA as being the sort of food that people would want to have on a regular basis. So you find fast food restaurants, you might find informal kinds of food available, street food, and you would also find very few grocery stores. Actually, you would find no formal grocery stores in a particular food desert. Or if you're in a city, are you going to buy the stuff that's more compact and more more quick to prepare because you don't have much time, because you spent all your time walking, right, to get there? So those are the kind of issues that might come up.
My name's Gabby Barraza. I have 3 kids and 1 husband, and right now I'm a stay-at-home mom and an Uber driver. I feel that's just my joke. I feel like I'm an Uber driver. I drive my kids and their carpools and all their teammates all over the place. But no. Well, I'm Argentinian, and we do eat a little bit of Argentinian, but it is a lot of red meat actually, and a lot of pasta, which we don't eat a lot of pasta now. We just try not to. And but my husband is Mexican, and he loves Mexican, and so does everybody pretty much. So we do eat a lot of Mexican food. But we do incorporate other culture. We love Thai food. We like Indian food. You know, we do try other cultures. We want to expose. I mean, we like it as parents, and we try to expose our kids to try different flavors and not be limited to just American food. So we definitely have a budget. We usually do our shopping once a week. We usually plan out a menu so we know, so we don't spend just over, too much and then throw away food. So we plan accordingly, and we do try to limit. We try to buy as much organic as we can without going over budget, especially the food that we know has a lot of pesticides and stuff. Especially meat-wise, well, we don't really eat red meat. If we do buy grass-fed.
During the course of this project, I want to learn more about where our fruit is grown and what happens to it when it gets thrown out. I think I'm pretty involved because usually every week it's me, my brother, and my sister that decide all the meals and plan the meals kind of for that week. And we go to the supermarket with my whole family on Sundays usually, and then we get all the ingredients we need. before when you go to the supermarket, I look at all the ingredients to everything to make sure that they're not like super high in sugar or fats. I think about my food choices a lot more, I think, than I did before we started the project, because now I understand what all the ingredients are. Like a lot of things like diglyceride, like who knows what that is, but now I understand they're all like basically like names for like corn products.
I'm Evan Marks. I am the founder and executive director of the Ecology Center. I learned that agriculture is the #1 source of pollution and impact, negative impact on our oceans, and I'm a surfer. And so when I started thinking that, realizing that the ability for me to surf in 20 or 30 years is potentially compromised by the way we eat, we have to change that. So I became a farmer. Follow nature principles, and that we want, as in nature, it wants to have diversity. We want to have a mix of species. We want to have crop rotation. We want to grow different types of things. We want to build soil fertility. How do we want to live on this planet? Do we want to live and make a positive difference, or do we want to be part of the problem and make a negative impact? So I think it's that I love food because we do it every day, and we get the opportunity to make the best decisions we can. And I get it that we can't make the perfect decision every time. You know, local organic might not be accessible every day, but to think that that's what we strive for. Do we want to buy cheap food? So cheap food has a cost that we're not paying for. So cheap food, whether it's corn chips or a hamburger or whatever it is, the system is being subsidized. And what happens is that we buy cheap food, it's cheap for us, meaning it's not healthy. And it's cheap for the planet because it's grown in ways that are contaminating. The cheapest is not the best. The best isn't always the cheapest. It doesn't mean the best has to be the most expensive, but sometimes buying less is okay, but we buy things that are, for example, better tasting, and are local, and are organic, and come from the farmer that you have a relationship with, that you buy food from on a regular basis. So it's again that continuity and commitment of building community. Transporting food from around the planet is affecting the planet in a negative way. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, we're talking, if we want, depending on what the metric of impact we want to talk about, but say you talk about a carbon footprint, there's a lot of effort in transporting that tomato from Chile 4,000 miles away. You just imagine that flying planes, buses, boats, however we're transporting food, there's an impact there versus going to a farmer's market in our neighborhood and buying food from a guy that we could build a relationship with. We treat the earth like it's a factory, and then as opposed to as it's a living system.
Organic soil has a lot of life of its own. When I was a conventional farmer, our groves didn't have weeds in them, but the soil was very dead. It didn't have life on it. Once a year when we'd spread chicken manure, it would have life, and then it would lose that life a couple months later. But that life being insects, mold, worms, all those things that grossed us out as little kids, and we see them as good enhancers now. So on an organic farm, the soil will tend to be, when it's wet, you're going to find lots of worms, lots of bugs. If you go to where there's a leaky faucet, you'll find all kinds of organisms moving in that soil and all around it. In a conventional farm, you won't find the same thing. You don't find a lot of worms. They're there, but they're just not there in the abundance in our soil. When I was a conventional farmer, we would buy ladybugs to battle bad insects. Now I could probably export ladybugs. And that comes naturally. I didn't have that naturally. It may not have been in the soil, but they're coming from someplace, and that's because we're organic. My farm wouldn't be worse if I wasn't organic, it would be different. Conventional farmers have their place.
The soil is not this inert medium. That's where the life comes from. That's where they get the nutrients, that's where they pull the water from. And if you don't have healthy soil, you're going to struggle to have healthy plants. So the soil is key. So being a smaller farm, you have the time and the energy to really focus on improving your soil.
40% of the food in the United States goes uneaten every year, and up to 50% of the 4 billion tons of food produced worldwide goes uneaten. With all this uneaten food, 1 out of 8 of the world's population went hungry over the past 2 years. 14.5% of U.S. households lack a secure supply of food.
So it's roughly 1 in 7 individuals are struggling with hunger in the United States.
Food waste has increased for the past few years for this simple reason that the American food production system has gotten bigger and more efficient every year. The food waste in America, because of the industrialized system we have, is enormous, from the fields to the end user and everywhere in between. And that is a particular crime in America, given the fact that 1 in 5 Americans, 20%, you look around your classroom and there were about maybe 40, 60 kids. Out of that group, 30, if that was just Americans, a group, out of that group of 60, you would have had 12 that had been hungry sometime in the last month.
Food waste is definitely a problem in America. It spans kind of throughout the food system, so all the way from farm to grocery stores, and then individuals have a really large impact on what food waste looks like. There's a lot of standards, especially in grocery stores, and kind of what we've become accustomed to as a culture is that we want that pristine product. Grocery stores have to take things off the shelf that aren't perfect because people won't buy them. Same way, farmers can't sell stuff to grocery stores if it's not perfect. So if the banana doesn't have the exact right curvature, if an apple is too big or an orange is too big or too small, if it doesn't fit those size requirements, they're not able to send it to market, so they're not able to actually even get it to the grocery store.
For instance, the produce we get is bruised or oddly shaped and can't be sold at retail, and a lot of it is to the point where it can no longer be distributed by the food banks and has to be used immediately.
Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act, which basically protects food donors from all liability when donating food in good faith. So as long as they're donating knowing that that food is still edible, it's not bad, they can't be held liable for any of their donations. And there's also, in California, we have like an extra set of protections, the California Food Code, which basically mimics the Good Samaritan Act, saying that all food donors cannot be held liable. Sell-by dates, best-by dates, best-before dates, they're actually not federally mandated, so they're set by manufacturers. So it's really just when the manufacturer says this is the freshest by. It's not, for the most part, a really hard date. So we have guidelines. I mentioned all of our volunteers earlier. All of our volunteers sort through everything that we get to make sure that it's within those extension dates. So last year, Feeding America San Diego rescued about 11.5 million pounds of food through our retail donors. So that's our grocery stores, which roughly equates to just over 10 million meals for our community. Along with a lot of other advocacy groups in San Diego and then all throughout the nation, we try to work with donors to inform them about this program, what they can do. I mentioned that we work with the Miramar Greenery, which is owned by the city, and they talk to a lot of donors about their waste because if they want to compost it or what to do with food waste. And so they help us out a lot informing donors and talking to them about these protections and that this program exists and that it's really great for their business.
We receive monthly, depends on which part of our organization the food is going to. For rescued food that we turn into meals for the hungry, right now we receive probably about 50 to 80 pounds per week. So 200 to 350 pounds per month is we've kept food out of the landfill, or we've taken food that would have a minimum value and given it a greater value by processing it into healthy meals.
If all food was donated that is now wasted, we could solve hunger in America. Absolutely.
Well, our work really is about simple solutions that make big change. So it starts small, and it also starts with the idea that we can give more than we take. So if we're consuming and consuming and we're taking, then it's hard for us to imagine a healthy house, community, future. So we have to kind of find that balance of what can we give? And ultimately, how do we be part of a community of people, producers that are also part of that philosophy?
Food is really about feeding your family and friends and sitting down and enjoying a meal and having food that nourishes both your body and your community at the same time. Having been a cook and a chef all my life, food to me is really, it's medicine and it's love all at the same time. And that's what food should be about. Well, we've turned food into this product that is designed to make profit, and we've lost some things along the way.
Again, simple solutions that can help make change. Like buying local food, like eating healthy, like harvesting rainwater, like planting a native garden and taking out your lawn, like having a potluck with your friends, just getting together with people. All of those types of things start to create a quality of life that we promote, that start to build a community, it starts to build a relationship to our environment that's healthy and positive. We get to decide how we live this life. That's kind of what we're all about, is that we get to decide how we design our houses, meaning our backyards. Like we can take the lawn out and grow some food. We can decide how we spend our money, and maybe we decide that we want to buy food at the farmer's market. And I think it's about choosing. Do we choose to have a really big TV, or do we choose to be healthy? Right? We all have the ability to make choices, and I'm not confronting people with their choices. I'm just saying, if we decide that that's important to us, America, most of us are in the position of, it's just a decision-making opportunity versus a financial barrier. We're not talking about buying a Prius. We're not talking about buying solar panels that go onto your house. We're really talking about how do we do simple things every day.
I hope people realize that there are so many other factors that go into their food and their food choices besides just the way something tastes. I'm looking at food differently. I used to eat food just to survive, but now I'm thinking more about the choices that I make. I'm not saying that I'm making my lunch every day now, but I am at least thinking about what I'm eating. When people make their food choices, they need to think more about what their body needs and how their choices are impacting not only themselves, but the world around them.
Something that I'm taking away is that culture creates a different cooking style. It can be the same foods that many Americans eat, but it could be completely different and made in a healthier manner. Or taking my culture's roots and creating new foods that are both healthy and represent who I am.
Being a vegan in middle school is incredibly difficult. There are no vegan choices offered through the school lunch program, and it takes a lot of time to prepare meals that I can bring to school. Every time someone brings in food for class or special occasion, I usually have to bring my own, and going to restaurants is not any easier. I usually have to ask a few questions, only to find that inevitably something in the ingredient list is made or cooked with an animal product.
I want people to know that it's never too late to change their eating style and to be determined to make healthier choices and decisions in life. Even though there are additional challenges with medical conditions, there is still the opportunity to make these decisions for my overall health and for your overall health.
Making healthy choices might not always be easy, but it is important for your own health as well as the health of the planet. You have to be willing to change your diet. Staying away from too many overly processed foods or sugars might be less convenient, but it's worth it in the long run. I think if you have the opportunity to cook meals at home, not only are you able to spend time with your family, but you're making healthier food choices by avoiding prepackaged food with unhealthy additives.
Josh, where are we going?
Albertsons!
To do what?
To buy food!
For what?
I don't know, they didn't tell us.
Okay.